Today we'll discuss the moral lesson and or message that GTA 5 sends. Sends? Is that the right word for it? I think it is. I may just be stupid though. Either way, I feel like each one of our main characters is a person from whom we can get some sort of moral message and from their story throughout the game. With that established, let's start things off with Michael. So Michael's in this situation where he essentially sold out his crew, tried to have Trevor set up and killed in order to save his family. Then he spent the next 9 years most likely not worrying about what he did, as he likely convinced himself that not only is Trevor likely dead, but also that he would have died at some point anyway, which is seen at the beginning of the mission Mr. Phillips when Dave says to Michael that he's fucked if Trevor finds out he's alive. Michael just totally brushes him off, saying, nah, Trevor's dead, he has to be, when in reality Trevor comes back into his life. They work together again, they fall out, they do their dream robbery of the Union Depository, and then they eventually hash things out somewhat and take care of their mutual enemies during the final mission. So what is the message that we can get from Michael's portion of the story and his perspective, I guess? Well, that message is that there will almost always be consequences for our actions, no matter how much time has passed in between us committing that action and the consequences finally catching up to us. Of course, in Michael's case, the action is the betrayal of his crew, and the consequence is Trevor coming back, as well as him getting roped into all of the shit for the FIB. Also, real quick, if you're enjoying this video right now, please leave a like on it, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're trying to get to 2,000 subscribers, and also check out my second channel. That's where I do some Kingdom Hearts content if that's something you're interested in. Now let's move on to Franklin. Now Franklin, his moral message is something that I had a little bit of trouble figuring out. However, I did decide ultimately to go for the lesson of never taking your real and close friends for granted. This of course ties into Lamar and Franklin's dynamic, as I feel like at the beginning parts of the game, especially after Franklin and Michael rob the jewel store together, Franklin makes over 200k from that, and you can have some phone calls with Lamar where Franklin's kind of saying, oh, you guys are amateurs, you're idiots, I'm working with professionals now, making a shit ton of money. And as the game progresses, Franklin distances himself from Lamar more and more, especially when he moves to Vinewood. We can see during even other phone calls, Lamar doesn't really agree with Franklin, but he rather just trusts Stretch pretty blindly, and while they are still friends, of course, they have grown distant and do disagree on a lot of things. Franklin sort of sees Lamar as unprofessional, and this is seen when Lamar starts doing work for Devin Weston. Franklin clearly isn't too fond of that whole deal, and things between them are somewhat rocky. That is until towards the end of the game with the Lamar Down mission, which is, I do think, the point when Franklin sort of realizes that he shouldn't take his best friend for granted after having to save him from a certain death. Things between them do seem to get better, especially during the final mission where Lamar kind of proves himself by helping Franklin, Michael, and Trevor, and from here on it looks like they sort of go back to being really good friends, and they don't seem to be that distant from each other anymore, while of course doing completely different things with their lives, with all this being very apparent in GTA Online's The Contract DLC that of course takes place in 2021, which is a whole 8 years after the game's main story. So with Franklin, his mistake was in a way taking Lamar for granted, and in some situations belittling him. Now finally, what about Trevor? Well, Trevor is an interesting one, as you don't really think moral lesson when Trevor pops into your mind, now do you? However, the lesson we can learn from him is just like with the previous two, a lesson that he himself learns throughout the game's storyline, and that lesson is to forgive your friends and people in general. See, Trevor, when he found out the truth about what happened to Brad and that Michael wanted him set up and killed, he lost his marbles, dug up a grave, and for a time he wanted to actually kill Michael for his betrayal. But as the ending of the game approaches, Trevor does help Michael on a few occasions. He saves Michael from Merryweather, does the big one with him, and helps in the final mission to take out all of their enemies. And in the last scene where we can see that he somewhat actually forgave Michael, he doesn't really want to admit it, but let's be honest, it's kind of true. The real kicker though happens if they hang out with each other after the game ends, where Trevor apologizes to Michael for the way he reacted, which is something I don't think that anyone would expect during their first playthrough of the game. So to sum up, Michael teaches us that all of our actions have consequences, Franklin teaches us not to take our friends for granted, and Trevor, no matter how funny this next part may be, he teaches us to forgive, especially to people that we care about and that we are close to. And with that said, I want to thank you for watching this video. Leave your thoughts and opinions on this topic in the comments down below. Leave any other moral lessons that you might think GTA 5 teaches the player, and until the next video stream, bye bye.